Trump is driving people insane with what he just said about the war in Ukraine.
President Trump, sir, today you told Vladimir Putin to stop with the attacks. Do you think he'll listen to you?
I was interested to hear the president's answer there, that he does think that he can still sway Putin in this. He put out a Truth Social post today after those strikes on Kyiv. It says, "I am not happy with the Russian strikes on Kyiv. Not necessary and very bad timing. Vladimir, stop. 5,000 soldiers a week are dying. Let's get the peace deal done." Vladimir, stop. What do you think is having the president believe that he's going to be effective in this message? It hasn't moved Putin yet.
Well, Jackie, let's hope he's right, because you're exactly right. Putin hasn't.
Let's hope he's right.
Yet. Let's be clear. Putin is the one who's the obstacle to peace here. Zelensky and the Ukrainians have repeatedly said yes to U.S. proposed ceasefires, and Putin's response is to launch missiles and massacre some more Ukrainian civilians. So Putin is going to keep doing this until we make him stop. We have to make it costly. We have to make it painful to Vladimir Putin to continue these kinds of massacres. Otherwise, he'll keep at it.
But even though some people doubt that the U.S. can actually achieve peace here, President Trump says he's got a plan. Listen to this.
You're not putting more pressure on Russia. I know a lot of Europeans.
Putting a lot of pressure. You don't know what pressure I'm putting on Russia. They're dealing. You have no idea what pressure I'm putting on Russia. We're putting a lot of pressure.
Can you maybe tell us that? What kind of
We're putting a lot of pressure on Russia. And Russia knows that, and some people that are close to it know, or he wouldn't be talking right now. The Prime Minister understands that better than anybody. He wouldn't be talking right now. He's talking, and we're putting a lot of pressure. I think he wants to make a deal. We're going to find out very soon, but it takes two to tango. And you have to have Ukraine want to make a deal, too. And they're being hit very hard, and I do believe they want to make a deal.
Mr. President.
So the reason he can't say exactly what these negotiations with Russia look like is because the second he does that, the entire world gets in on it and levies its opinion, and that makes things more difficult. That will just drag out this awful conflict, which needs to end as soon as possible.
Mr. Prime Minister, if I may. You said that the Ukraine have to give some territory to win peace. Among them, Crimea.
Well, it depends what territory. They've been fighting. They've lost a lot of territory. And we'll do the best we can. Working with Ukraine, we'll do the best we can. But they lost a lot of territory. When you say Crimea, that was handed over during a president named Barack Hussein Obama. That had nothing to do with me, Crimea. That was 11 years ago with Obama. And they made a decision. There wasn't a bullet fired. There was no fighting. There was no anything. They just handed it over. Now they say, well, can you get it back? I think that's going to be a very difficult thing to do. That was given by Barack Obama when he was president, not by Donald Trump.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I have a long
You have
meeting,
a peace
Mr. President.
proposal that you put on the table. It's a 30-day ceasefire proposal. Your national security team presented it to both Ukraine and Russia. 2 months ago, Ukraine agreed to that ceasefire proposal immediately. Russia has not. And my question is Russia the obstacle to peace based upon that? Just getting to that 30-day ceasefire.
I don't think so. I think that they both want peace right now. They're ready to do something. We'll see what happens. Complicated, very complicated. But I think they are both very much looking to make a deal. Marco, what would you say?
Well, first of all, what was put before our partners was options to discuss about things that it would take to end a war. This war is endable. Both sides just have to agree to it. We've shown them a pathway forward. We've discussed those ideas. There was a good meeting yesterday. There'll be good meetings over the weekend. We've shown them the finish line. We need both.
That's what's so important about this. It's an endable war. It doesn't have to go on forever. It's not a forever war. There is a path to peace. Will people walk down it? That's a good question.
To say yes. But what happened last night with those missile strikes should remind everybody of why this war needs to end. It's horrible those missiles landed. What's even worse is there are today people that were alive yesterday that are not alive today because this war continues, and the president wants to stop it. And everyone should be thanking the president for being a peacemaker and trying to save lives. That's what we're trying to do here. It's not our war. We didn't start it, as you know. But we're trying to end the dying. We're trying to end the destruction. And We've shown the path forward. We can see the finish line, but both of them have to get there. We're going to do everything we can to help them get there, but they have to ultimately say yes.
And we are using a lot of pressure on both. You know, if you think we're just in there because we're nice people, and we are nice people, but we're using a lot of pressure on both.
What concessions, Mr. President, and to your national security team, what concessions has Russia offered up thus far to get to the point where you're closer to peace?
Stopping the war, stopping taking the whole country. Pretty big concession.
Mr. President,
That's what people are so upset about. They're upset that the reality of this situation is an impossible situation for Ukraine.
And, you know, the perspective inside the administration is that they've been giving Ukrainians a lot of support and a lot of help, and
Which
Zelensky
they need.
keeps trying to negotiate this thing in public. And that's something that you haven't seen the Trump administration do.
Yeah, never negotiate in public. I think the lesson that we all took from the Oval Office meltdown not too long ago is whatever disagreements you have, and allies and partners always have disagreements, you have those conversations in private. But President Trump has an enormous amount of leverage over the Russians. You know, we have great cards to play here, and we can shape Putin's behavior simply by squeezing their economy. We don't need to put American troops in harm's way or increase military support to Ukraine. We simply need to close the Biden administration loopholes that they left in sanctions on the Russian economy. Sanction the Russian banks, sanction the Russian energy sector. Russia's economy is a house of cards, and if you take those two steps, it collapses in a matter of months. That's the kind of leverage that is going to force Putin to come to the table and negotiate in good faith. The Ukrainians are ready to do it. Maybe they should mind their manners in public, but they're ready to have hard talks and make tough concessions. It's time to force the Russians into the same position.
Well, the president believes that, you know, there is still some hope, and he's not willing to give it too much longer to take shape. Listen to what he said today.
I have my own deadline. And we want it to be fast, and the Prime Minister is helping us. He wants it to be fast, too. And I think everybody in this, you know, at this time in NATO, they want to see this thing happen.
So Trump says he's got his own deadline. People don't like a person that says they have their own deadline. That makes it sound like the United States has more control over this than it might look like right now. And it sounds like Donald Trump is just saying things like he doesn't actually have a deal. That's what people think. That's what people are very upset about. But look at this. Look at what the Norwegians are saying, who he met with today in the Oval Office.
That is clear. That is obvious. It's really happening. Now, the important thing is that both parties have to know that they have to deliver, and they have to feel the pressure to deliver. Ukraine is under attack. They are defending themselves. Lives are being lost. And we believe very firmly that there needs to be a ceasefire, the initiative taken by the US some time ago. It needs to be respected. And then to move on to something which both parties can own. That is the complicated part in such a dramatic war. And here I believe Europeans and Americans working together, as we do much closer now. And I salute the team of President Trump of being, you know, open in that process. We had a good discussion on this today. And then we have to move on, and we cannot lose time because this is too much drama happening. One thing is people losing their lives, but it is a bad thing for Europe, and it's a bad thing for the world to having such a broad conflict going on. It can have ramifications far beyond Ukraine.
Finally, somebody else comes to the table and says the exact same thing. This conflict going on forever is a really bad deal for the entire world. It doesn't make the world a better place, and everyone loses. But look at this. Some mainstream voices don't seem to think the president is serious or has an actual plan that the Russians are going to respect.
On the other side of that, there is no consequence from the U.S. if they don't come to the table and negotiate this thing. But do you believe that some of those consequences that you were spelling out might actually be lying on the other side?
Well, I hope so. You know, the president was very clear today, unequivocally calling on Vladimir Putin to stop the violence, stop the killing.
Which he needs
to. And Putin needs to make a decision. How much patience does Vladimir Putin think that Donald Trump has? Trump has been very clear. He's drawing a clear line. Don't cross it. And if Putin continues to cross it, there has to be consequences to go along with the words. Presidential rhetoric is very important. Make no mistake. The president was clear today. Now he has to back that up up. The administration's going to have to back that up if Putin doesn't get the message. And again, we're not talking about American troops in combat. We're talking about tools of economic pressure that the Biden administration was afraid to use, but that this team is well positioned to put into play.
But now the question is, where does this leave us? The New York Post, right here, they've got an editorial on how this is an impossible situation for Ukraine, how Ukraine's constitution won't allow them to agree that Crimea is part of Russian territory, which essentially puts Zelensky in a no-win situation over there. And it sounds like everybody is upset that the president has an actual plan for peace here and says he's doing things to bring Russia to the negotiating table. There's a lot of doubt. People are saying he's not actually doing that. People are saying that the evidence that he's not actually doing that exists because Russia is continuing the war. What do you think? Is there something going on behind the scenes here? Is the president right to feel confident that there can actually be peace? Are they right? Is this guy on the screen right here right that there are things the United States can do to bring Russia to the negotiating table that maybe you or I haven't thought of? Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.